Hi, this is Mass Rundown. If you enjoy watching movies as much as we do, subscribe and hit the like button down below.
Today we're going to be looking at the review for the Croods. The Croods is a DreamWorks movie directed by Chris Sanders and Kirk DeMicco. It stars Nicolas Cage as Grug, Emma Stone as Eep, and Ryan Reynolds as Gar.
Plot is fairly simple. It's basically a road trip movie with cavemen. And they go on this road trip after their cave is destroyed, and the daughter Eep meets this new guy, and he basically lets them know that the continents are shifting, so they need to go somewhere further away so that they basically don't fall into the sea or nothingness.
I think there's like volcanoes and lava and lots of dangerous stuff.
So essentially they don't fall and die.
Yeah.
Even the themes are pretty basic. It's your classic adaptation or die plotline. Essentially, the caveman family needs to learn how to live in a world that's very different from what they used to. Because they're used to being in this very protected, small, isolated cave. And now they're actually in the open and they have to journey to this new place, which they don't really know where they're going. They're just going off in the distance. And essentially following this new person, Guy.
They contrasted it quite well between Grug and Gar, because Grug was we have to abide by the rules, we have to stay with the known, we can't try anything new, curiosity kills. And Gar was let's think of new ideas, let's try and do it a different way, let's try and explore, let's try and adapt. So it was that difference that was being shown very heavily in the movie throughout.
It was quite an interesting interplay, really, between your old traditional versus your new modern lifestyles.
Then that, of course, plays into the overprotective father figure, because Grug doesn't want anybody to leave the cave. He's overprotective, he doesn't want to let go. Very much like in Finding Nemo, Merlin didn't want to let go. But in order to save Nemo at the end, he had to let go. It's that progression, very, very similar to a lot of movies like this.
He did have that added aspect of an overprotective dad protecting his daughter from growing up, essentially becoming a woman, getting a boyfriend, because he's very against Eep and Guy getting close together, because obviously he doesn't want to lose her and he's afraid. And I think this is a very relatable plot line for a lot of people, because it's that transitioning into adulthood that the child has to kind of come to terms with, but the parent needs to come to terms with that as well. Saying that, I didn't like the fact that is where Eep's development essentially stopped in the storyline, because she was this interesting character who was very curious and wanted to experience the world and kind of be rebellious and break her dad's rules. She meets Guy and then she's just a love-smitten girl, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So that moves us into the good.
Being in animation, the first thing we look at is how was the animation? And it was really good. Like, I enjoyed the animation. It was very bright and vibrant when it needed to be. It was very dark and dingy when it needed to be, like in the cave. Characters were animated very well. The animals, everything was just so well animated.
They also had like these amazing landscapes throughout the movie where even the characters themselves stopped and looked in awe at what was in front of them. So I loved that. I also really enjoyed the animals, like William was saying, because they weren't your typical animals. They were animals with a twist. For example, there were whales that were walking on land. The elephants were very small and they were almost like mice. There was this big cat who was essentially one of the villains of the movie, I'd say. But that cat kind of had like owlish features at the same time, so it was really cool.
I liked the parakeets. Those were very cool.
Which were essentially parakeets or some sort of bird that
Piranhas.
were piranhas and that would strip animals to the bone, essentially. Almost like if you watch some mummy type movies, like what scarabs would do to people in those movies. That's what what were they?
Parakeets. No, parakeets.
That's what the parakeets did.
The movie had a stellar cast of voice actors. I mean, you've got Ryan Reynolds, Nicolas Cage, Emma Stone. You know they're going to deliver, and they did. Nicolas Cage was Nicolas Cage throughout. I don't think Nicolas Cage can be anyone else, and we wouldn't want him to be anyone else. And Ryan Reynolds is just funny. And Emma Stone, of course, is just good in everything she does. So
I think Nicolas Cage really did fit well with Grug and Grug's character. So don't necessarily always only think Nicolas Cage when you hear Grug. You do get into the plot line and into the story and feel like he becomes Grug. And I think that's largely due to the really good character development for most of the characters. I would say that the majority of the characters really developed and grew as people throughout the movie. I think some exceptions, of course, would be Eep, as I said earlier, and the mother was, so-so. But maybe that's because she was already a well-rounded person beforehand. She wasn't as flawed as what, for example, the father or the son was.
yes.
And they had quite big jumps in their development. I feel like the score and the music in the movie was really appropriate. It wasn't the most amazing, but it was still really good, and I felt like it fitted quite well with the emotions and the plot line of the movie.
I think most importantly, the movie was funny. I found myself laughing throughout it, so I was enjoying it. With this type of movie, that's all you really want, is to have a little bit of a good time, and I definitely had a good time.
And I think that's really important for these type of movies. It's the type of movie that parents can take their kids to watch and watch along with them and not get bored in the meantime, and actually leave the cinema feeling like I actually liked that way more than I thought I was going to.
Yes.
Let's look at the bad. Like I said earlier during the themes, I really didn't enjoy Eve's storyline, and I was disappointed that they put her in the cast of a typical girl, and that was it. I think she could have been a stronger, more interesting character.
I also feel it was a very simple story, very used story. We've seen this type of thing before. We knew where it was going. It wasn't anything, wow, I'm so shocked and surprised. It's a movie you've seen before without seeing it, with new jokes littered everywhere. So, yeah.
Yeah, so a very basic general plot line. What else I didn't enjoy was the fact that at some places it seemed really over fanciful and a little bit silly for me, especially one scene right at the end. I think they could have ended it slightly differently and made us feel a little bit more sad and emotional, but then they made it silly instead. So, it might be okay because, it was a kid's movie after all, but then at the same time it was, what a weird cop-out.
But I think barring a few major exceptions, most animated features end that way. It's that we almost write ourselves into this deep corner and let's make sure we get out. No matter how, we make sure we get out so it ends this very, very positive way. And it's not always a bad thing, but yeah, it
was a bit over the top this time.
Yes.
I think overall this movie was just a really fun family movie.
Definitely.
So I would give it a solid 6 out of 10.
I agree with that. It's definitely worth a 6 out of 10.
So overall our rating would be a 6 out of 10. Who would like this type of movie? I think families would enjoy it. The whole family can watch the movie and leave feeling like, that was interesting, that was fun. Yeah. I think anyone who really likes animations would also enjoy it because it was just beautiful. The animations were well done. The scenery was amazing. So it was definitely worth a big screen watch when it came out in 2013. But that doesn't mean that if you go and watch it now on DVD or Netflix or whatever, that is not worthwhile because it was still really beautiful on the small screen. So
all in all, a very solid showing from DreamWorks. Let us know what's your favorite DreamWorks animated movie in the comments down below.
Bye.
Later.